So we finally have another Berserk chapter to talk about. And yeah, let's talk about the elephants in the room. Multiple. So this video is kind of late, by about a week. Usually I get these out within a few days of the chapter dropping, but this one ended up being a weird situation. When it came out, the English translation took a while to actually get finished. For like 4 days straight, the only way to read it was in Portuguese, and I don't speak Portuguese. Then by the time the chapter fully dropped in English, I was balls deep working on the 20 days later video, meaning I wanted to get that done since it was 9% finished anyway. Then it came out on the 4th, and the whole thing just got thrown into a tailspin. You get the idea, the schedule was all over the place. And it didn't help that I heard a rumor that we were supposed to get another chapter on Friday, and I fully bought into that, thinking, and then I can just cover 2 in one video. And yeah, that wasn't true, so I ended up eating a day or 2 waiting for nothing, so yeah, sorry about that. The other elephant in the room is that, yes, the big 21-hour Berserk video was taken down. Japanese copyright is a brutal thing. Yeah, there's already copies up on Rumble and Odyssey, and the video is technically viewable through various parts in the playlist, so it's not dead, it shall live on, just not in the big boy version. On YouTube, at least. Regardless, let's get into the actual chapter. So last we left off, things got pretty dire. Sure, the battle in the Kushan Empire closed out, but the damage was fully felt. A lot of key figures for their army and government were dead, and to make matters worse, Guts is fully blamed for everything. Daiba painted him as the sole figure responsible for the demon showing up, clearly part of some larger scheme that he's not telling anyone about. I mean, even Salak kind of figured out that Daiba was planning something. Regardless, Daiba gets his way and is given full permission to do whatever he wanted to Guts, avoiding just outright executing him, but Guts is exiled from the capital, separated from the party and taken on a journey. The only ones following him are Salat, Isidro, and Puck, leaving us on a pretty big cliffhanger. Last chapter was setting up a lot of different ideas, and this next one follows through on the big one at least, following Guts to his destination and teasing a possibly huge event, but it takes a bit to understand what's happening. To get what I'm talking about, we're just gonna have to get started. I mean, you guys waited long enough anyway, so yeah, here we go. The chapter opens up on Guts being escorted by the Kushans. Immediately you see that whatever daze he was in seems to be gone, instead looking more stone-faced and focused, almost like he's back to his senses and is following along willingly. They've been walking for a while, now dipping into nighttime. Thank God he still has that seal on the brand. That could have went really fucking bad. Isidro remarks that the Kushans are able to keep their footing well, even in the dark. We also see that Azan has followed along with him, and it kind of makes sense these 3 are kind of the trio now. Guts turns back to look at the 3, which absolutely terrifies the Kushans escorting him, but he just kind of ignores them, going back to following the soldiers. One of them even gives a slap to his back, and they all aim spears at him. Clearly, they are not exactly friendly, and they're probably pissing their pants at the idea that he's gonna snap and try to attack him. Guts is still a legendary warrior that killed a shitload of Bakiraka. The monks leading the escort are visibly sweating as well, probably trying to keep whatever trance or whatever they were doing strong on Guts, but it seems like it's not fully working. Guts is following along of his own accord. I mean, if he wanted to, he could probably just fight his way out of this, but he doesn't, simply silent and passive. Salat and the Bakiraka are also trailing behind the escort, and they're entering a part of the forest only the high priests are allowed to enter, something known as the internment grounds. Isidro and his group don't know this and don't really give a shit, so they're going ahead. But it's a major taboo to enter these parts for a Kushan. And Salat also doesn't give a shit, jumping down to meet the escort behind Isidro and the others. They're startled, but they're kinda getting used to these guys. They do weird things, it's their thing, but Salat doesn't want to talk to them. He seems to focus on Daiba. The old man simply says that they don't even know where they're going, yet they insist on following along anyway, kinda claiming it as a folly of youth. The landscape changes as they go further into the internment grounds, seeing the old ruins of an ancient temple, overgrown with nature. It's still technically part of the forest, but it's getting more elaborate. They even pass a line of corpses, long since rotted, but still have flesh on their bones. The sight disturbs Isidro, but Salat doesn't really seem surprised. Something about this place screams that this is not a rare sight, and they come to a small dome at the center of the clearing, a tree starting to grow out of the roof. There, Daiba reveals the truth. This isn't a temple, it's a burial ground. A very old burial ground that has not been used in a very long time. And the dome is called a stupa. This is actually important to remember. We'll talk about it later once we're done, but keep this in mind. Daiba approaches the stupa and uses his magic to move the roots of the tree away from the door, revealing the massive stone entryway. Salat recognizes something about the door and simply orders his men to open up, using their titanic strength to force the heavy stone apart and opening the way forward. Once the doors are open, Daiba orders the soldiers to seize Guts. They force him towards it, the rest watching in fear of what's about to happen, but Salat already knows what the plan is. The chamber is supposedly an execution method. Once someone is forced into the stupa, they're sealed inside and left to die. And that's what they're doing to Guts. Isidro only watches in horror as Guts is dragged into the dome, collapsing to his knees as he can do nothing to help. Daiba remarks on what's going on, referring to it as Guts passing on. And once he enters, the priests seal the chamber, Puck watching the scene and simply calling out his name. The words seemingly get to Guts as he gives one last look, the doors closing as he turns his head towards the party. The chapter ending as the doors are slammed shut, Puck simply looking at it. Alright, so things went from bad to worse. Guts seemingly was actually fully fucked over by Daiba, sealing him in basically a death chamber and leaving him to starve. It is strange, because Daiba clearly knew a lot more than he was letting on last chapter. He was blatantly lying his ass off to the Kushan Empire about the cause of the demonic attack and what was going on. He knows it was an attack by Griffith. Hell, he was there when Rickard fought Roxas. He knows who the guy is. He's the one that helped him escape from Falconia, and they had to kill Roxas the first time along the way. So why is he doing this? Well, that's where we can talk about what exactly a stupa is. It's not an execution method. A stupa is a Buddhist temple, specifically a place to allow one to meditate. Not just any temple either, but considered a place for one to achieve enlightenment. So that raises the obvious question, is that Daiba's plan? Salat seemingly doesn't know the extent of the importance of a stupa, he just thought it was an execution cell, but an experienced sorcerer would absolutely know the significance of this building. So, is he trying to help Guts clear his head? Does he know what's going on in his mind? We already know that sorcerers in this setting can read your thoughts, so he could 100% know what's been eating away at Guts and is trying to set up a situation to get his mind in order. We already know Daiba received some kind of vision or prophecy. It's how he knew to find the party out at sea in the first place. This guy's being really coy, but there definitely is something bigger going on. And this raises another important question. This is a chamber all about meditation and controlling one's thoughts to achieve enlightenment. So what's going to happen to Guts here? His mind is all over the place, borderline suicidal and completely lost the will to fight. And there's a certain other factor to mention here. The beast being alone with Guts is not exactly a great idea. Unless it is. This could be the big chance Guts has to finally control the beast, to master his rage like the mages on Elfhelm told him he would need to do. We could see Guts finally facing himself and making peace with his anger, to essentially achieve nirvana and reach a whole nother level as a warrior. It would make sense, since this arc seems to be all about fusing the Eastern and Western mindsets to become stronger. Daiba could be planning on Guts not wanting to die, to just let himself rot away in this dark hole, and to keep fighting. Also, there is something kind of interesting to mention with the fact of this is basically a reverse of what happened when Griffith was arrested all the way back in Golden Age. He was at his absolute height and then fell tragically in a single night, locked away at the bottom of the tower and tortured for a year straight. This could actually be almost a subversion of that, where it seems like Guts is going to be thrown away and left to die, but in truth, this could be the exact thing he needed to come back to who he is. One was about breaking a man down, this one's about building him back up. It especially helps that his buddies are right there. Isidro and Puck definitely are not going to just let him die. I mean, Azan, I guess we had to flip a coin on it, but I mean, they seem kind of alright. Still, they're gonna try to get him out. But the question is if they can, and if they really should. If this is a place to allow Guts to meditate, then maybe it's a process they shouldn't interrupt. We love the guy being a mindless barbarian, but the situation is screaming that it's not enough. He needs to refine himself. It's hard to say what's going to happen, but clearly there's a much bigger plan at play, something not even Salat knows the full extent of. Daiba definitely is not an idiot. Morally compromised? You can make the argument, but definitely not stupid. He knows Guts is crucial for the larger war ahead, and just casting him off to die in a dark hole is idiotic. If he wanted him dead, they could have just killed him right after they left the capital. He knows damn well that Guts dying is not really going to cause another demon wave. That was his lie to trick the Emperor into giving him what he wanted. They specifically wanted Guts alive, and they took him to a temple representing enlightenment and pilgrimage. to walk the path to inner peace. It's actually kind of clever how they play it off as just an execution ground. The dead bodies outside, Salat saying Guts is just gonna be left inside to rot, Daiba never explaining what a stupa is. It really does make you feel like they're just fucking the guy over, but there's little hints that they are not just gonna kill him. The obvious factor being, well, it's Guts, the guy definitely is not gonna just die, he's the main character. Yet there's also the context of what a stupa really is, and that the soldiers went out of their way to not kill him, probably under direct orders from Daiba to keep him alive. Sure, they were terrified of the man, but as you can see, they only ever threatened him with their weapons. They could have just killed him whenever they wanted to. He was completely passive, didn't want to fight back, and didn't even have any weapons. So why go to all this effort if they're just gonna, lock him in a building and leave him to die? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, we don't know what the next chapter is gonna do, or when it comes out, but this is a pretty big deal. I definitely hope we get a scene of Guts confronting the Beast, because that would be a hell of a sequence. Guts is at its absolute lowest, and it's been strangely quiet, almost like it's waiting for something. It's had plenty of chances to jump out and take over for good, but it seems like it's biding its time. This could be the road to Damascus for Guts. Either he gives in, or he fully tames the Beast. Either option is a big event, and I really can't wait to see one way or the other. It will be a hell of a thing. Also, I know a lot of people complain about the pacing of the story, saying it feels like watching a snail crawl. All I'll say is, yeah, welcome to being caught up on Berserk. Sucks, doesn't it? Just be thankful you weren't there during the boat years. That must have been hell for fans to experience in real time. Yeah, it's one of those things. Berserk is that kind of series where it's really great to binge, but waiting chapter by chapter can feel like you're ripping out your teeth with pliers sometimes. Regardless, that's all I can say about this chapter. It's more build-up, but what it's building up to actually seems like it could be really fucking cool. I really can't wait to see how this plays out, and it should be some kick-ass psychological moments, which we've already seen Berserk is really good at handling. Anytime it actually had to address Guts' mentality or his psychology, it's some of the best moments in the entire manga. So if it's leading to what I hope it's leading to, I really hope that it sticks the landing, because that will be fucking incredible. But that's all there is to say. Except one other thing. Gamer subs, use code TAL at checkout. There's cans now. They're doing cans. Canned beverages. Don't want water? Well, you get cans. Use the code. Use the code. Use the code or Guts is never leaving the stupa. Use the code. But now we wait for the next chapter. Whenever that will be. I hate being in the bad times. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys. Hey, loser. Do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? I have shirts now. Look in the description for a link to a t-shirt you can buy. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll kill your family. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll poison your dog. If you don't buy the t-shirt, you're going to be the only person in town that does not have a t-shirt. Everyone's going to look at you funny. There's going to be social consequences to not having one of these t-shirts. I'm now making express threats of violence against you if you do not buy my t-shirt. I will call the police, tell them how you're not buying my shirt. They're going to plant crack in your house, and they're going to arrest you and then beat you up in a jail cell. Buy my shirt.